All right. Oh my goodness. Hello. Hello, everybody. What's going on with you, camera? Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing fantastic. So, as you can tell, I think that I have gotten through the um, bulk brunt of the issues that I was having with the stream, with OBS specifically. Uh, what? Stop moving the camera when you do that. Hello, DFlux, and hello, Edgemel. I will tell you all about that, but happy Friday to all of you. Happy weekend before the upcoming holiday, and holiday week, and holiday 2 weeks, or however long it's going to be for you. I need to tell this thing not to, and then let's go into XSplit real quick. See if there's something that I can do about this extraneous detection. Actually, it fixed itself just then. Awesome. Okay, and then there is window swap. Hello, window swap. And if you do not see you, I know you meant to say I, then happy Christmas also. Yes, and definitely happy Christmas to all of you that celebrate Christmas. And for those of you that don't, I hope you enjoy a nice break if you do get any breaks. Happy holidays to you as well, Ajmal. What's this thing called? No, I guess I did everything that I wanted to do with that. Okay, I'm gonna close a few things real quick. So I am on a schedule where I am not able to build a client from today until next week, until 2 Mondays from now, actually. Monday will be a holiday for me, so I will not be streaming, but maybe, depending on how things pan out, I will stream on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of next week. We will see how it goes. But yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that I wanted to catch up on anyway. Things that I am a part of for Sagetti, such as the Metaverse group and working through our proof of concept slash MVP slash whatever we want to call it. That's going to be a ton of fun. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, DFlux. I'd be happy to entertain your project management question. It's not going to be a very good answer because I still could use a lot of help with my approach to it, but we'll compare notes. So, as long as our conversation is going to be centered around technology and how it applies to what's going on with you, because that's the whole intent of Community Day. It's not only to talk tech, which I've always wanted to do with other people that are interested in the technology, but find out how you guys are using it. What kinds of projects are you doing? Yeah, today is Friday. So I'm getting everything set up still. Here is my Discord. And if I go to my desktop scene, which is not broken, wow. We've been on for what, 5 minutes with camera and stuff, and it has not frozen yet, so it's looking kind of gravy. Okay, so no, my audio switched. Voice. Did I tell OBS to go back to using? Yes, I did. Dang it. When I opened, or when I joined Discord, my headphones switched to that audio, call audio sound, which I really don't like. Okay, start my virtual camera. Okay, so you're good to go. I can close that. How does XSplit have another update? Okay. Gonna switch something real quick. I might actually have to reconnect my headphones just to get my audio in my ears good to go so that I can hear. I'm gonna try this first. Okay, I'm gonna reconnect my headphones. Be right back. Be right back, he says. You can still see me when I disconnect my headphones. I just can't hear anything. Ever. Okay. How's my battery already at medium? Yay! Maybe. No. Why are you doing that, headphones? Okay, anyway, DFlux asked his question, which you should have been able to see on screen. My question is regarding keys. So I have Project A that runs in the cloud, Project B that runs on-prem, then I have Project C that has my data layer, and Project A and B are referenced. Given that Project C, the data layer, is a library and isn't running, what would you do to hand the data layer the database keys in order for it to connect up? So the only thing that matters is what the running application is. So as long as you have your secrets or your dependency injection set up in those applications, then you don't have to worry about Project C needing the keys configured in it. So your running applications are the ones that need the secrets. So Project A needs its secrets or environment variables or whatever. And it almost sounds like Project C is referenced by Projects A and B, not the other way around. And this headphone thing is gonna really bother me. Ooh, ooh, I think I did it. Okay, perfect. Okay, so one more thing to do is in the stream room, I will stream my OBS virtual cam. Perfect. Perfect. Okay, so I have the stream room open in Discord, or not open, but you know, everything is set up. You can see my little icon up there at the top for the indication that we're able to see who is currently in OBS. Not OBS, Discord. So yeah, if any of you do have any topics that you would like to discuss about projects you're working on, about technologies you're interested in, let's keep it to technologies this time instead of world events. That is for a different channel. But yeah, so I will bring you in DFlux. I will kick you out though if you start talking on those topics that you know I don't like talking about. Oh no, I can't hear you. Hold on. Hold on. I'm sure chat can hear you. Give me a second. Okay, talk again, please. Yeah, I can't hear you. I mean, so the thing is that yeah, exactly. Your mic thingy turns on, which means that we can hear you on the stream, but I can't hear you in my monitor. I can't hear you echoed out.
Yeah, you gotta route it.
I turned you up. Hello, Dota. Vicky.
Microphone 1 2 1 2.
Ooh, I can hear you. All right, so I really need to turn you way up in my ears.
Good.
And I need to turn down finite. Cool. All right, speak it, speak it, speak it.
International
I heard
tax
that.
law. That's what we're discussing.
Thank you so much, Marcus, for the follow. I still have you really quiet, but I'm sure everyone else can hear you just fine because your audio levels are right about where mine are. So as long as you just mute the stream for yourself and listen to me on Discord, maybe even watch on Discord, we'll be live.
Hey, yeah, I'll do that. I forgot you can even stream it and watch it that way too. How useful.
Oh. Okay, so you've provided some more information. Would you like to talk about it?
I was in the Discord asking, and live coding as it usually is very.
Oh, did your microphone do the thing? I
I don't
think
know
your
if it did.
microphone.
It
Oh,
did the
because like
thing.
right after you said live coding, it just went quiet.
I think it's a bad wire. I've got to check that. I've got to find that out. Yeah. Well, anyway, so live coding came in and he gave his 2 cents, and he basically said that I was doing it wrong because I was using like eye configuration and I was injecting in that everywhere. He said that's a way of doing it, but that's not really appropriate. He was saying like, no, it
High
wasn't him. It
options.
wasn't him. Sorry, it was another. I was discussing it with a Unity developer, and the Unity developer was saying that's incorrect because they shouldn't have to know about each other or something. And I was like, well, I don't really know how else to other do it in a different way. But right now, my main problem is everywhere I have a using statement, I now have to inject in an instance of iConfiguration. So, like I put in the chat there, everything that every time I'm using vardb equals new winning customer, I now have to change that to vardb new winning customer and then hand in a configuration.
Right.
Is that appropriate, or is
Not
that
usually. No, that's usually as live coding or whoever the other person said, that is a way to do it. But the most typical way to do it is you would prepare your DB context in your services. So you'd make a, oh, right, I did it this way. Add, set up DB context. So you would add an IDB context factory or a DB context factory or just a regular DB context. And this is where you would use that I configuration here to get the connection string. But that's in the spot that you're doing the dependency injection setup, not in the actual file that you're using it. So the thing that you inject into the file then is either IDB context of your context or the DB
Gotcha.
context itself.
Yeah, so rather than using the using statement that I was using, I should just like inject the actual DB context and use that.
Yeah, and you'll still be able to do a using so that you don't get collisions of DB context with invalid states or multiple things trying to do a query on the same context if you use that DB context factory, because
Yeah.
you would do using context, the same place where you have your using context equals new context, you would do using context equals here, using context equals db context factory dot create db context.
Ooh, okay. I'm not sure. I don't think I have to use that. In fact, the reason why
Yeah,
it
you don't
even has
have
those
to.
using statements is because this used to be a what was called a Azure function that's not isolated, but the other one. It's just like running in concert with I guess. But I'm switching everything over to what's called Azure function isolated. So now it's like running its own process. And now I have like the ability to do the configure services and everything, which I didn't have that before, really.
Yeah. So, like, using new is just a good idea to use with DB context anyway, or the using statement, because it'll dispose at the end. So, Dota is asking about scaffold DB context doing this. That's just like a different process that has to do with getting your database set up. So, if you have an existing database, you can scaffold it into Entity Framework, and then from there it'll be database first, where you make changes to the model, or sorry, code first. You make changes to the model and then do migrations, or you can just keep scaffolding over and over. So that's a different process than what DFlux is working on. This is
So your
just
main
getting,
difference,
go ahead.
right? So your main distinction between the way I was doing it and the way you're suggesting is rather than I actually injecting the iconfig into the DB context, you're just saying just hand in the key. That's all you really need. So just select the key and hand that in. That's what you're saying. I should probably do.
Not really. The thing that I'm saying is when you're doing your dependency injection setup in your services, instead of setting up iConfiguration, you're doing .add db context of your db context type. And then this is where you do all of your setup. So options.use equals server, for example. And then this is the thing that needs that configuration. So this is your iConfiguration dot get connection string, whatever the name of the
Right, that's what I'm
connection
saying.
string
You
is.
actually like when you're doing like the get connection string, you're actually like handing in the key. You're not actually
Yeah,
like handing in the I configuration, then inside there getting the key.
right. Because this is the iConfiguration.
Right.
So essentially you are. So if you don't
Got
have
it.
access to this config thing, then within your options here, you could get your iConfiguration directly. So let's say var other config equals options dot get service iConfiguration. It doesn't have a get service. Yes, it does. doesn't it? Huh? I can't tell if these are like actual suggestions or if they're just IntelliCode or Copilot. But you should be able to get service. How about get required service?
Yeah, because you have web. I'm using host builder, so it's slightly different for me than it is for a web application.
Right. But I mean, you should still be
Just
able
trying
to
to.
do a very similar thing where you have like your host builder. Like, are you setting it up where it has the add services? Um, is that what it used to be called?
Um,
Configure
like
services.
yeah. Like I have host.configure services, and I have a lambda, and then I just basically have the exact same thing where you have like
Yeah.
services dot add log.
Yep. Yep. That thing. So that would just be everything from here down. So then you should be able to, within that lambda, um, get a required service.
Well,
So
I prefer the way you're doing it. I think that's a lot better. Like doing the var config on like line 7 and then just handing in just the key. That's a lot cleaner to me.
yeah,
I
but
just
I
got to
mean,
figure out how
like,
to do
if
that
you
with
didn't
host
have
server.
access to do this with Host Builder, which
Yeah, I got to find out.
you should. But if you don't, then you could ask for it from get required service or get service because this is exactly the
Been
same.
using. Yeah.
No, you're cutting out. I think we completely lost you.
No. I was just
Oh, you just got really quiet.
and snip your screen before you move on. Right, because you'll say something really crucial, like, "Ah, oh, it's such a good idea," and then I'll forget it in 5 minutes from now. So I got to snip it, and then I remember what it is you told me.
Yeah,
So
but
that was
I don't
concentrated
really know
silence.
why this one doesn't work with add DB context, but obviously DB context options builder doesn't have a get service. But what you could do is but that's terrible. That's really bad. No, I don't like that. Yeah, I think this is the closest picture of how you might do it with host, except that you just need to figure out how to get the configuration from there, from host builder. You know what?
I'm about to ask ChatGPT.
Oh, I was about to ask Google, but that's smarter.
Do I'm going to go to my employer and beg that they pay for it.
So I'm assuming that you said something about if they go to a paid model, you're going to go to your employer because you keep cutting out like the first half of what you say cuts out.
Damn, I wish you didn't do that. In
I
fact, I
don't know
see it
if it's
now.
maybe when I start talking over you. I was trying to test it just now, but then you got quiet.
Well, let's see if that fixes it.
What'd you do? Doesn't seem like it fixed it.
Well,
Actually, that sounded like a bitrate issue just now, like an internet connection thing.
I don't think it's an internet connection thing. I have.
Yeah, I wouldn't either, but that's what it sounded like. Your voice did the whole digital meow and then cut out.
Yeah.
Mash. Oops. Is host builder
From
vulnerable?
the
I hear nothing. I know
yeah,
nothing.
I was just saying I actually have a like I have the let me share a little screenshot.
Okay. It's Captain Commerce.
Hey, Captain, I can't do it. I can't. He does for me a really great intro, and I can't do the Captain Commerce. I can't do that. It just doesn't come out the same way when he does it.
I'm just not loud. Not saying that you're loud. You're enigmatic.
Oh, I love the intro he gives me. So I'm gonna smack that in the chat, and I just shoved it in general. But so I'm actually like setting up the configuration, and I'm wondering if I make that, can I like at that point like assign that .config at the end to like a var, and then reference it down the bottom there where you
Yeah.
see the.
Maybe. Cause it's not necessary that you're going to run that before. Maybe not. So what I would do is on host builder. So on host, do you actually have a host dot configuration? What kind of project is this?
Right now, you're looking at Azure Azure Functions, but it's the newer isolated Azure function.
Does it have any special project type other than Azure Functions? I'll take that as a no.
Discord,
Nice.
because my
Oh,
microphone's
no, you
picking it
just
up
cut
just
out.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
and
I'm actually,
and
so I'm watching the stream, and there's like a lag and delay, and I can see when I'm cutting out, and it's on Discord. So that's it. But anyway, you have to make sure you select isolated there in
yeah,
your
right
function
here.
worker.
Oh, and function worker.
Yep. Yep.
Wait, where's function worker?
That's the top one. You have it
Oh, the
isolated.
very
I
top one.
think.
Okay. Do, do, do. And then here's program CS. Here's host builder. Yeah, what I was going to tell you, since I can't hear you anyway at the moment, and maybe I am cutting you off, uh, is that I was having this issue a lot before when I got the Yeti. And again, I had to turn like all of my audio settings in Discord to don't do anything automatically. And maybe if you have any other audio software, um, just make sure that it's not filtering, it's not doing noise reduction, noise suppression, whatever, on any of your other software for now, and then turn them on one at a time. Okay, I was trying to look for this. Our host equals new host builder, and then we can do host configure functions defaults, host configure app configuration.
I don't know. I changed a bunch of stuff on the Discord.
Okay. Yeah, it really does sound like it's some noise suppression, something or other.
Hmm. I wonder if it's
There it goes.
I've turned. There's a button on there called Air.
The end. So all we heard from you was there's a button on there called air.
Oh my god, that's so terrible. I don't know what it is with the Discord.
Yeah. But again, any other third-party software, like I'm using Crisp and it's in my system tray. You said you had the NVIDIA thing, but that you turned it off. On Twitch, Tyron? It's probably because like my stream has been so terrible and it kept OBS kept freezing and disconnecting that I had to reconnect like 20 times on Wednesday. And Twitch is like, you know what? You're not allowed to tell anyone when you go live anymore. Yeah. So the thing that DFlux and I are talking about here is he's looking for a wait. Oh, right. That's not where you do it. He's looking for a way to get configuration into the host.configure services for this Azure Functions isolated function project because he needs the configuration so that he can add DB context, if that's even a thing that you should be doing. Is there another configure services that has a function of a configuration? Oh, okay. No. At least from what I can see, the only uh, configure services that we have.
Call it host. I have to inject host content. Oh, this is Chat GBT speaking, by the way, not me.
Oh, okay. Except that you went quiet.
Or how should I? So they have a like on the configure services. You can see on my screenshot.
Uh-huh.
In the configure app configuration, I'm injecting that host context. Will they do the same thing in the configure services? They have host context, comma services, and they use host context dot configuration.
Oh, question is, does that actually compile? Yes, it does. And so there you go. Services.add DB context, except that this doesn't have Entity Framework. But add DB context options. Options dot use SQL Server. How does this even work? And for those of you that are familiar with Azure Functions, is this even a good idea? Or is there a better way to get the DB context passed to each of your function methods?
So now when you're doing the config.get connection string, that's returning a string, right? So I have
Yes.
to inject a string called whatever.
Well, you set that up in your app settings that you configured up here.
I'm in the DB context itself. So inside the DB context, I'm going to create a read-only string.
No. No, this will go to whatever configuration file you chose. So I would have a
Right.
apps.json. And in here,
But
we would have connection
yeah, I'm talking
strings.
about like in the DB context. How
Yeah,
do I
still
then
no.
get that string?
You don't. So what this is going to do is it's going to go into your configuration file that you chose, which could be environment variables. It could be this app settings dot environment name dot JSON. Get this key and then return this value.
Right.
And that's what it puts in here. So your DB context itself, oh, needs to be fine named
Oh, I got it. Right. So you're actually doing the
context.
config there, as opposed to like I have an on configuring method, and I'm moving that on configuring method to that program.
I mean, so everything that you set up to that, yes, correct.
So I have an on configuring method, but that has to be
I'll show you the on configuring that you get for stuff like this. Why aren't you referencing it? Oh, it doesn't like that. Is it because this is a .NET 7? Probably. Let's just say it's .NET 6 for now. Use your imagination. But yeah, this whole thing here just depends on you having your connection string configured in app settings, and then in the actual context, the constructor will look like this. So find_man, DB context, find_man options, base options. So as long as you have one constructor that will take in options, then that's what this thing sets up for you. Options, use SQL Server, get connection string, find_man. So yeah, as long as you have this, then that dependency injection will work.
Yeah, I think because I actually provide it with a string, I should be able to do that. Yeah, it's just slightly different for me because I'm not using the SQL database. I'm using a different database, as you might expect.
Ah, yeah, so whatever the configuration is that you need for that specific DB type. I thought that there was a on configuring that you could overload, but you definitely don't need to. Yes, he is using Excel 97 as his database, as you might expect. And because his microphone is so borked, he can't defend himself. Excellent choices, Captain Commerce. Hiron says I use MySQL with MariaDB, and it's very similar. I have a MariaDB project too. It was my first
I
foray.
switched microphone just so I can
Yay!
just so I can defend myself.
Yay! Welcome back then.
But I will just to share, just to make sure I am thinking about this the right way. I'll work it out, but I'm gonna paste that.
Yeah.
Paste that there.
We will listen.
I probably could also share my screen, I guess, but
Yeah,
there
Jason
in the
Field. But good.
so basically I need to like do the use Cosmos in the program.cs and then provide it there. Basically, is that?
Yeah, exactly. So all of this options builder.use Cosmos, that's exactly what would go into the program.cs right here. Services.add DB context, options, arrows, and then everything that you have in here. Options.use Cosmos, URL, configuration.get section, database name.
Now, just yeah. Well, so say if I did want to keep that inside the in the on configuring inside the DB context, because then I've got to basically put that connection stuff in 3 different places.
Oh, yeah. So the thing that you might need is another constructor. But anyway, so you want to keep these in here, is what you're saying?
If I could, if I could, that line that's wrong, obviously the line which I've cut off the configuration. I guess I've been sorry about that. I wasn't paying attention to my screenshot. But the if I yeah, what I was thinking of doing when you were typing it out, I was like, I could just do like in the constructor, put a string in there, and then pass that string in as the key, and replace that line with the key that I've.
You could, but then you wouldn't be able, like, you would have to provide it every single time you try to manually create a new wedding customer DB context.
Yeah, that's not preferred.
Right. And so that's why it's more preferred to dependency inject the DB context itself, so that in the constructor you're passing in everything that you need. Maybe on configuring, you can use stuff from the constructor at that point in time. So if you wanted to pass in configuration, and then you still dependency inject your wedding customer DB, then that would be fine as well. So let me show you that. Let's do, so imagine that this is a separate project. That's your data layer. Wedding what? Yeah, and Tyron just posted a link for you.
Yeah, I'm just reading that now.
See if it'll automatically give me entity framework. Yay. No. Right, because it needs 6. 7, 6, 5, 2. Cosmos. You construct it with iConfiguration. You save. Then in on configuration, you use it to build. So is that what we're about to do then, Tryen? Which is, so let me destroy this. Get rid of the dependency on the Dynize 7 project. Okay. You have a CTOR where you dependency inject IDB or iConfiguration. Save that locally. I did install Entity Framework Core, didn't I? Did it fail? There we go. Maybe. Oh, nope, that one worked. Gimme.
No, you installed core.cosmos.
Was that
Oh,
wrong?
there you go. No, I don't know. That looks good to me.
Okay, so then on configuring, use Cosmos, and then all of your other options that you put in here too. I don't know what all you need for use Cosmos. Are you missing a closing bracket? No, I'm missing one down here. Okay, so all of your configuration goes here, and the only thing that I injected into the constructor was this, which means that you're not actually adding this as a DB context in program.cs. You would just be doing services.add. Oh, that's a tough one. Maybe add transient just to be safe, which I don't know if you can do with the DB context. Wedding customer DB. And then every time you use your function or whatever it is that you're getting a wedding customer DB from, instead of trying to new up a new one, you would do whatever the dependency injection thing is here, which I never know how to do in a function.
In isolated, it's going to be you do it at the top of the class file, right?
You still
Like
do
you
it in
always would.
a constructor.
Yep.
Oop, right there, actually. That's cool. So then you would
That's the difference between isolated and not isolated, by the way.
well, then that's probably something that I would be able to understand. And then you save it here. And then you'd be able to use your customer DB inside of your function. Some table, which we don't have any tables. Where, blah, etc., etc.
Okay.
So the only thing that I did different from you is I created a constructor that takes an iConfiguration, which is still not, again, not the best way per se. I don't know if I would say best, but I'm going to say best anyway. Not the best way to do this. Instead, I would still use DB context options builder, wedding customer DB options, base options. I think that's right. Maybe it's just context options builder. Whatever the thing is.
I think you're just missing a bracket at the end.
Oh, it's just DB context options. Or both. Yeah. Or both. Well, how would the dependency injection, as in both I configuration and that. That could be what Tryen means by both. And thanks for the alert, Captain Commerce. Cool. So you can add both,
Ooh.
which is cool.
This is the preferred way, as opposed
Um,
to the first way we did it, where we moved it to the program.cs.
Well, here's the full preferred way. Ignore the I configuration stuff and ignore on configuring. And in program.cs, instead of add transient, services.add db context, and actually add db context factory is most preferred. Wedding customer db, options arrows, and then you do all of your configuration.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Like that's what we did. That's what we did first, right? That's probably the best way to do
Yep.
it. All right. I'll just probably end up doing it the most preferred way because, you know.
Whatever it's called. And then all of your other stuff that you had in that screenshot.
Yep.
But again, Tryen is saying that even if you do have the I configuration in here, this is going to work just fine. And then what you could do in here is there is a check if options builder dot not is configured, then you fall back to using your injected configuration manual.
Mm.
In that way, if you do dependency inject it as db context or db context factory, then you can get the benefits of using db context factory there. So to use db context factory, for anyone that is interested, instead of just dependency injecting the db context, you ask for an idb context factory of your db context. Create an assignment field. And when you're ready to use it, that's when you do using context equals. And then you can do it either async or synchronous. So this should actually be called factory. And this way, what this does is it makes sure that when you are getting a DB context for this run of your trigger or whatever it is that you are using it for, your DB context is going to be a fresh one that will not collide with any other contexts that are maybe in an invalid state. They already have queries running on them or other processes, or they have a transaction on them that wasn't completed.
Gotcha.
And it also will create less DB contexts as your function runs, because let's say you have a whole bunch of logic up here, and then you have an early out check that checks to see if some condition then return early. Bad request. Then you will never have to create a DB context in that case. And so this is not a huge deal for smaller apps, but if you have thousands of requests, hundreds of thousands of requests, it'll save you some cycles and processing.
Good deal. Yeah, I'm right. That's probably what I need to think about, because the process I'm learning. All I'm doing is I'm converting my Azure function away from the old way to the new isolated way. So I have to think about things slightly differently, and this is probably a better way to think about it.
I think this is probably when I'm going to start picking up Azure Functions, because it's looking more and more like the code that I'm used to writing. You have a constructor where you dependency inject a whole bunch of stuff, and then you have methods that you can call somehow. That was fun. That was a really good question too.
Well, I'm glad I can add to the content.
And just so you know, this microphone doesn't sound that much worse than the other microphone.
Don't say that. This is my webcam microphone.
I mean, there is a bit of an echo, but that's about it.
Yeah, mighty. You're saying my $2 microphone plugged into my $300 XLR to USB thing is just as good as my, perhaps not even, because the webcam's like $20, so like maybe $5 of it was the microphone.
That's terrible. I'm not saying anything at all, ever. No, I'm saying that when your good microphone is able to work without cutting out whenever you find out what's going on with that, it's going to be much better than this microphone.
Yeah,
Yes.
it is frustrating. I'm gonna have to try something with it. Maybe a hammer, I don't know.
Okay, let's delete test functions. That was fun though. I think I could add Azure functions to this project very easily with what you showed
Oh
me.
yeah, absolutely. I will say, the Azure functions. There's like two ways in which Azure function works. One way is the consumerless or consumer serverless version, which is like dirt cheap. Like maybe it costs you like $1 a month. And then there's like the persistent always on Azure function, and that's considerably more expensive than the just having a .NET API in a web app service on Azure.
Yeah. But it's like in this case, I don't know that I would want to use I guess that's the main thing that's been happening with me. I haven't been creating any apps that are for production, I guess, anymore. Like other than the one that I'm working on for work, which is out. By the way, we made it to the Windows Store. Can't believe it.
Ooh. Are we allowed to install it, or is that sort of like
Yeah,
a?
yeah. I mean, it's out there in the public. You just have to figure out what it is without giving away any information about what it is. Other
Oh, I
than
see. Yeah, they'll you to hand over the who you work for your client and so on.
yeah, other than it was released on the 16th, which is awesome. So good, so good. And like the screenshots for it, I just want to show the screenshots. Can I do that? I can't show the screenshots because I was really pleased. I know that there's still a lot of UI stuff that I'm working through right now. Like I immediately got started on doing UI cleanup, but I'm really pleased with how it turned out. Like the going from the design itself to implementing it and having it flow, having it be very smooth when you click on stuff, it responds right away. There's animations for when it takes a little bit longer to respond. It's so nice. So yeah, do you have any further questions on this topic, or do you want to talk about anything technology related that
I
is,
was just looking at the Windows
you know,
Store. I couldn't find it anywhere.
oh. Like, is there a way to do something like
You can't filter by date. No,
that's dumb?
I'm in the application
Oh,
tools, and I
oh,
don't have anything that's.
I do have an update. I don't know if you saw, but the title bar for the Windows Store just now, you had to happen to be looking up at that point in time, had the here's the black background for the rest of the title bar, and then this section here, the non-client section. Uh,
Someone's at my door, so I'm gonna be back in just a
oh yeah,
second.
yeah,
But
yeah. I'll just talk with everyone else. The non-client section here was white. It had no background, and that's because it was still loading the WPF. Most likely, this is a WPF or something similar window. And yeah, so I finally got the top bar, the title bar of the app to respond to theme changes And I don't know if you guys remember, but in around June, I think it was, I spent 2 to 3 weeks just trying things, trying to get the title bar background color to respond. And I was stuck at things like I could get the background color to change, but you would have to click off of the window and click back on it because it wouldn't repaint itself. Or I did the extends content into title bar, but somehow I still wasn't able to get my title to show up there and get all of the click draggableness. And the way that I ended up doing it for the app was falling back to an old way of doing it. So if any of you do have more information on this, like there's a new title bar API that you can use with Windows 11 and above. I guess WinUI 3 is what really matters. And that's fine. That works just perfectly. But I had to use Chrome, Window Chrome, WPF custom title bar, Window Chrome. Oh yeah. It was a project that I downloaded. Why are you opening over there? Oh my gosh. And I also don't know if you guys saw, but because I kept freezing, I wasn't able to announce it. I changed the title of the stream to One Line of Code because it's not Daily Code Fun anymore because I haven't been able to stream daily because work, because schedules. I don't. Oh, and I uninstalled a whole bunch of stuff, which meant that I no longer have the target framework for this project, but that's fine. I upgraded it. The easy thing to do was add a theme. I guess I didn't really add or they didn't add the theme here. I added it as a separate resource dictionary XAML. But you style this top bar area, the caption buttons, which are the minimize, maximize, and close. And oh yeah. You also have to set it up so that because you lose everything when you do this. When you add window Chrome, you take away the entire top bar. The minimize, maximize, and close functionality is gone, and the draggable area is gone. So you gotta style it all yourself, including the border width. So trying to resize by the borders themselves, the edges, was really hard. But you create a new border, set that border to have the top part of it be a grid, and then the rest of it be the app, which is so weird to think that you're changing a border. Your window is only a border. Just it's weird. It's so weird. And so the grid content is comprised of your title bar area. So this row definition height auto is the title bar area. And then this is the rest of the app that takes up the remaining space. So on grid row 0, here is your title bar. And so what I ended up doing is because I turned this style into a resource dictionary and I have all of these keys that I could target programmatically, whenever I did a theme change, I have a handler that just goes and gets the resource dictionary. Actually, there's a different way of doing it that I was really liking, and it's called a it's called a something property, dependency property. And so I made a dependency property for each of these that I wanted to target and change. And so, for example, there is a border brush somewhere in here, or not a border brush, a solid color brush somewhere in here that had a color. And oh yeah, I changed all of these to be that as a static resource. Nope, dynamic resource. Dynamic resource. And we'll call this something like button background hover color, because that's what this one happens to be. And so I would make a dependency property for that. No, it was like static and I'm doing this off the top of my head, okay? It's really hard to remember. And the first thing that this thing needs is what type it is, and it's going to be a brush, and the default value. Excuse me, can you tell me about your constructors? I'd really like to get to know your constructors better. Oh, the name, the name. I don't know, I kind of remember needing to put in also a wow, it's not going to give me any IntelliSense. I kind of remember needing to put in a default value for it. New solid color brush, for example. Actually, we'll just use brush.black. Brushes.black. Anyway, it's something like that. And then I created a public I don't even remember what the type is that we give back. Brush. I think. And then on get, we just return brush. Get value. Yeah, exactly that. And then on set, are you going to do it for me? Set value, button background, hover property color, value. And so all that I have to do whenever I get that event is set this thing equal to my new brush, which is going to have the color of the theme that I selected. And that will do everything. It'll repaint the top bar and yeah, and all of that. So I have a theme helper essentially that says whenever a theme changes, then set all of the properties based off of the current theme. And okay, so Tryen is saying, I remember why I can't use a DB Context Factory. I always do this, but my DB Context is internal and I don't want to expose it. But to use DB Context Factory, I need to inject my concrete class instead of my interface. I didn't know that that was a thing.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Welcome back. Did you get your stuff taken care of? Taken care of.
I did
This is
indeed.
really
I did
nice.
indeed.
Not having freezes. Oh, I feel so nice.
But no, tech stuff. I think ultimately the agenda is the same as last week. If they make GPT not free, I'm buying it.
Mm-hmm.
It was funny. I got an email. I went to the Git. Was it the Git Copilot tool?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I signed up with my corporate email, just to like let me know when shit's happening thing, and like CC'd me, and apparently every other person on like the senior team had done the same thing. So when they sent an email to our company, it CC'd everybody else in the company had also signed up as interest for Copilot.
Like it used a distribution list email?
Yeah, well, no. Well, I mean, it just individually listed every single person that had gone there in the company with the same like at archiveofname.com.
Oh, when you registered or when you asked for updates.
Well, not even that. It was just like a generic like quarterly thank you for your interest email,
Oh. Oh.
which I thought was
Yeah.
funny because basically it was me and everyone on the senior team had done it. So my name must have shown up in the email chain. This bastard is doing things he's not supposed to be doing, playing with this company email.
That's terrible.
Yeah,
Don't get your hands
trying
slapped.
to yeah, trying to fly under the radar, not so successfully.
Apps. Yeah, I do a lot of stuff with like right now. Oh man, one of the best resources that I have that I'm going to be going through today, the rest of today and throughout next week is the NVIDIA Omniverse platform. I have access to all of their training stuff and oh, it's gonna be so good. Visual Studio. What? That's not Omniverse. Wait, that is a weird URI. Anyway, this thing, which is free and open source, by the way.
Is that something that we can do, or is that something just you have to like sign up for and be a member of the club?
I think anyone can. I think anyone can.
And
so
so
this
sell it to us. What is it?
this, from what I understand of it, is a way for you to do XR development or just any kind of 3D development using this thing called the Omniverse, which is a platform that contains the best way that I can put it is something that's like Dropbox, but where you can do live edits. So, like OneDrive, I guess, like anything where you can share files and access the same files, edit files while other people are accessing them and they get the updates. Download your own copy of the file, use it in your project. So it has that feature to it. It has the actual IDE, full IDE, which I think they just call extensions. It's all of these individual extensions that are put together in a cool way to create this thing called a kit. So you can develop your app. It has the rendering, the cloud rendering stuff that whenever you are doing things in the app, you can pretty much see it at what it's going to look like when you fully render it, when you bake it, if you are going to bake it, because you could always do it in real time. So it'll help you create the actual 3D app. And so we're using that as part of our metaverse concept project. And we're using this technology to develop it. So I'm learning all about this thing and how to use it.
Interesting.
It's gonna be so much fun.
Interesting.
But yeah, there's more than just that, but it's really exciting. We got to talk with the development team that maintains this. They gave us training on it, and I need to go back and rewatch that video. But just so cool.
No, I don't. I'm still not quite sure what it does. So it's basically like you can like make a 3D thing and then put it into like the Omniverse, and then someone else can sync that to his computer and then also develop on that 3D thing.
Yeah, so it's think of Unity, but at a corporate level. And instead of having all of the assets in the Unity project, they are in this thing called the nucleus. Is this where all of them go? I think this is where all of them go. Yeah. So think of this more like the asset hub or the asset store for Unity. but for your organization. And so you can go in there and use resources from it, create your app using Kit, and deploy your app using all of just this one thing. You can also import models and scenes and everything from different what are they called? Platforms, I guess, like Unity and Unreal and 3ds Max and everything.
And this is just like a UI tooling 3D thing, or is this like a C# thing?
It's low code. They're going for, you just grab your objects and move them around the scene, and then you tweak some UI things to say I want it to do this thing. But you could also, if you wanted to, script behind it or do
Well, it says they're right there, Python and also C++.
for scripting, yes. But for actual object manipulation and stuff, I really don't know. I need to get further into it before I can answer those questions.
Did I ever discuss with you what they're doing currently at Unity regarding .NET?
Oh yes, it's really exciting.
I did mention that. Yeah, I'm super excited about
Absolutely,
that.
.NET Core or whatever you want to call it.
It's just that they have to. It's just .NET now. I think it's
Yeah,
.NET
just
Framework, .NET
.NET.
Standard, and .NET. Yeah.
But also moving to NuGet packages, that's going to be very familiar for us. It's going to make it easier for us to develop in that. But like it's just kind of sad because the metaverse group that I'm in wants to, the goal is to put in the least effort for the biggest return.
Oh yeah, obviously, yeah.
So a massive imbalance in how much effort you put in versus how much you get out of it. Which means using low code, no code solutions to make this app that can explore the metaverse, that will say, hey, existing clients, this is why you want to add metaverse capabilities to your products or to your company. Look to us to do that. We have these things that we're already working on that we can add to your product, to your company, to add value for very little effort. I don't like that
Yeah,
because
that's, I
it's like I
guess.
love to
Don't like
code,
that.
but I want to see these things exist. So, however they get there.
I broke into coding, and I did coding a long time ago, and then I sort of stepped away from it. But then I re-broke into it in line with Microsoft's Power Apps,
Oh yeah.
Power Apps, yeah, which is sort of like a low code ish, UI friendly like sort of thing. So I can sort of sympathize with that view, I guess.
Definitely. Wee. And again, just an advertisement to everyone else that is in chat, even if you're lurking. If you feel like it, if you feel like using your voice, it's community day. Feel free to come in and have a conversation with us about technology, about what's going on in your world with tech, etc. Right now on the line we have DFlux.
Mm-hmm.
Yay.
Who also might be streaming at one point in the future again. I streamed for like 3 hours until my computer blue screen. I think you stopped by, I can't remember. And I gave up. I was like, I don't know.
Oh,
Like
no.
streaming causes blue screens, I guess. Great.
Was it maybe your video card? Did it heat up?
I have no idea.
Did it
I
burn
don't
up?
think so. No, I wasn't doing games. I was streaming Visual Studio.
Still possible. By the way, now
Maybe.
that you say that, the thing that actually worked for me for keeping OBS from freezing, like the very first suggestion that I got was my NVIDIA drivers. There's a known issue with the latest drivers, and so I should have reverted back to previous drivers, which I did. And guess what? Didn't fix squat. So, after going back and asking, giving an update, I got no responses because nobody knew any other things to try other than just check the video card drivers. So I did internet searching, and it said disable hardware accelerated graphics scheduling. Graphics scheduling. Anyway, it's called HEGS. HEGS. Which you get to by going to System, Display, Advanced. Nope. I can't remember this off the top of my head. Graphics, change default graphics settings, and then you can turn it off here. And that's the only thing that's worked for me so far. So I reverted everything back to the way it was in OBS, turned this off, and it's been running since yesterday. But I'm going to change my drivers back to the latest and run it for a while and see if that works.
That's brilliant. That is, whenever that stuff happens, it's just some obscure setting.
Yeah. I'm like, I'd never heard of that at all. Nor would I know why suddenly it is causing OBS to frizz. Oh. So what else is news?
Oh, let's see now. We're getting the house is coming together nicely, slowly.
Awesome.
Slowly coming together. You obviously you purchased the house just was it a year ago now?
I think it's been 2 years.
Holy crap!
Gosh, when did we? It was definitely
Well, I remember.
2021. Yeah. What you were about to say. I remember that too.
Well, I remember when you first set up your like little spot in the basement. You were testing your AR HoloLens, and it was just like you, the desk in the room, and that's it. So then I had the same thing. I was like me in a desk in an empty room.
Yeah. Was that like April or May 2021? So yeah, a year and a
I
half.
want to say something like that. Yeah.
And Tryen says he solved his issue with being able to use DB Context Factory with his internal DB Context, and he did it by wrapping DB Context Factory in his own internal class. Oh, that's smart. That is so smart. And he dependency injects IDB Context Factory into that. Oh my gosh. Concrete classes are internal. I don't know if you actually want me to share the code itself, but yeah. This is super, super smart. Cool. Happy. Well, I don't want to bring OBS onto the screen at the moment. I keep saying OBS because OBS is on my mind. Discord.
They have the code share thing if he wants to share some code, right?
Well,
codeshare.io.
It was all of it. I wanted to get the formatting with the markdown and all of that. But yeah, may as well just share it that way. I'll put it in valid. Oh yeah. My my Blue Apron is delayed and I have no idea if it's going to get delivered at all. With this
I haven't.
crazy
That's one thing I
weather
didn't
stuff.
restart up. Once I moved out of the apartment, we did Blue Apron a lot back then, but now I haven't done the Blue Apron anymore.
Just
But
we
what I was
definitely
going to say is, all the ideas the Blue Apron has given me, I still use now. Like I still cook a bunch of stuff that I learned from when I was like doing Blue Apron stuff.
that time I think it was my headphones.
That I cut out.
Yeah, but I think it was me. It was I like if I move over my desk like this, my Bluetooth cuts out, which is so weird.
Huh.
It's choppy. No, I can't do that.
Interesting. But I'm listening to myself on the stream and I sound awful.
You
Like
do?
I sound like muffled and
Oh. Does he sound
it's
muffled?
it's the cheap microphone to me. That's what the microphone sounds like. It's like a cheap muffled microphone.
Probably that my headphones upsample or something.
It sounds so much better now.
Well, then the constant cutting out, I guess. I do hope you're able to get it figured out, though. He had to connect his old. Oh, it was muffled before, but now it's not.
Huh.
What?
Wait, 1 2 1 2 1 2. Maybe it is. Maybe yeah. I sound not so bad. I don't know.
I have to clear up all of these red. Oh, I can't because there's stuff that we don't have. But yeah, so this is what Tryen used because he has a whole bunch of internal classes that he doesn't want to expose outside of the application. And his DB context is one of them. And he wanted to use DB context factory, but because his DB context is internal, he wasn't able to use DB context factory. So instead, he's using an internal class that will get the DB context factory of the concrete type dependency injected into it. Dependency injected or pass directly to it. I think pass directly. I don't know. But in any case, he'll get the DB context factory in this wrapper class essentially, and then this wrapper class. Okay, so it'll be dependency injected into it with add DB context factory. And so this wrapper class here is the one that will be dependency injected throughout the entire application as an IDB context factory. And so he never exposes the concrete class. The concrete DB context.
So you died with a DB context factory.
Oh, falls over. Oh, hey, cool. I can actually do my time card this week.
Well, I need to get back to doing that. That was on the list of things that I stopped doing that I should be doing every week.
Time card? You
Yeah, because
stopped doing your time card?
I'm salaried, so it makes no difference to me.
I mean, if we don't enter our time, we don't get paid. I'm salaried as well.
No, that's the thing. That was one of the things that like I because they pay me weekly. So like you gotta do your time card by Sunday. The check comes in on Tuesday. And one week I just forgot to do it. And I was like, oh shit, am I not gonna get paid? And on Tuesday, no, I just got paid the exact same amount as if I had typed in the time card. And then from that week I just never bothered to type it in.
How much stuff do you have to put on your time card? Because ours is just you open it up, put in the number of hours you worked, and then save and submit.
It's just it's like a weird it's like annoying thing. Like you can't like I have to like type like 4 p.m., 8 a.m. in
Oh
like
yuck.
10 times.
Yeah, no, we just put in number of hours that we worked on a given day.
Yeah, mine's is more annoying. And this what's hilarious is, and this is just I guess big company stuff. There's 4 different places to request PTO.
Which are? Because
So
I wouldn't know other than HR.
well, no,
Like I
so like
guess
the
you
four
would
pieces are
request
like
it from your
software.
supervisor, but yeah.
Right, well, exactly. So like I have to like there's the actual way you're supposed to do it, which is through the pay portal thing. Then there's another way you can do it that's not for salaried employees that everybody has access to. You can do it through there as well.
I'd do it through
That's for like
there.
hourly, yeah, hourly and salaried. And then there's like a calendar that we actually share within the team that you can do it through there. And my supervisor will pick it up and do it himself. And then there's like another calendar that you're supposed to put everything in afterwards that has everybody's PTO for the year.
Yeah, so that one makes sense, like needing to put it in a shared calendar.
But you would think, right, like they could like connect these dots up, maybe like have one place, and then when you add it, that goes into the shared calendar.
Hmm.
Like that's such
I
an
mean, you would
easy
think
MS
that that would
graph
be there
project.
for a development company, yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know.
Ooh, one of the things that I was playing with lately was making a tool for all of our localization strings. Now that you're talking about tools ish. So, do you have to deal with localization with whatever project you're working on?
Nope, we all speak English.
Yeah. Well, we all speak English as well, but our customers don't all speak English.
Maybe well, here's my localization implementation is when they like drop down and select to a different language, I'll just redirect them to Rosetta Stone.
Jeez. Well, the way that we handle it, and actually this is even more complex than is needed. We have one localizations resx file that will be treated as a resource. Excuse me. Yeah, as a resource. And we put all of the strings that we're going to use as if we were giving it a variable name. So this would be something like welcome screen text. And then this is the output string. Then we take all of these, once we're done with the app, send it off to a localization team, and the localization team sends us back localization.en.resx, localization.ar.resx, all of the translated strings. But instead of adding all of those to the app directly, we put it into this consolidated dictionary essentially of all of these localized strings throughout all of our apps. And then we run a tool on it that gets the value, looks up that value in the English version, and then gets all of the translated strings, creates a new class that has all of those translated strings as a dictionary, and then a whole bunch of helper methods to get back. Super confusing. Get back based off of the current language. But it's really, 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 really cool that we do that because then we just have a localizations class so that when we're outputting text, we just do at localization dot translated or whatever dot value for that thing. And it uses these as the as the variable names. And so I'm like, instead of just using that tool, I need a visual way of knowing which strings have been localized, what do we have available throughout the entire app. So I created a WPF app that you feed it the master dictionary of all of these strings, and then it prints them out. It tells you pick one, you pick it, gives you all of the translated versions of it, has a whole bunch of extra helpers that say, here are the ones that every single language has the same value, so it hasn't been translated. Or you point it to your app and say, here's my localization file. Which of my strings have not been localized? And it gives you an output of those so that you can send those to be translated. And I'm thinking if we can put this even further up at the localization team for the entire company, then they can have a master DB of every single string that they've localized. And whenever people request localization, they just look up whatever that string is and then get back all of the translations. It'd be fun.
Pretty neat. Pretty neat.
Yeah, I like making tools. And I'd show you the tool, but I currently have a working set of translations that have our company's name or the client's name. Hey. Hey. It would be nice if
That's
I could
one thing
work
that
directly for them.
I'm gonna say. Well, don't say that out loud. That's I'll get you in trouble. But yeah, that'll get you. That's like that's why we have non-competes, right? Because that's often what happens is you'll go work for a client, and the client will be so happy with your work they want to hire you directly, and be like, "Hey, I want that developer. Can they come work for me?" And then they basically say, "Well, we hired your company at this price, and you get all that money instead of giving it to the company. We're going to give it to you."
Right. Which I wouldn't be able to accept. So, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you were saying.
Oh, yeah. So the whole thing that started this thing off is I'm trying to make my side project for a personal thing I'm working on. I'm trying to get all
But
the
you still
keys off
can't
of
say
it so I can actually.
the gist of? You're still keeping that secret?
Well, no, I'm gonna eventually stream me working on it. But I have to first get all the keys out of it because
Right.
I'm lazy and I have all my keys in the code.
In the
Because
files.
yeah, who wouldn't do that when you're learning? Because this is some like the first. This is like some of the first like forays into C# that I did, and so certainly into cloud development. So anyway, so we were talking about tooling. I was saying about that, and you were talking about that.
Yeah.
What you can and cannot stream. Once I get this together, I can now stream that.
Yatta. Oh.
Unit testing is a big thing. I do this so unit testing is easier. I haven't done unit testing yet.
Yeah, so he's essentially saying that, like, instead of what I had to do here with mocking my database for all of these, I really could have had and set this up the way that he did with his application DB context factory and mocked that entire thing with my testing version of it, which would have made this whole entire process so much easier. Yeah, and in general, making interfaces for your models even makes it so it's easier to make a mock of your models for your testing as well.
Interface. So this is what the things again. I've had you explain it to me twice now, and I've had several other developers explain it to me as well. What on earth interface is? I still don't know. Don't do it again because I'll forget.
Oh no,
But
I mean,
it's one of
I'm
the things
about to
where
create a
I'll,
new project anyway. Man.
Well, I mean to say I haven't quite. And I think once I get into like unit testing, I'll like actually start to understand the importance of interfaces.
Oh, I already have one. Do I though? Am I blind or am I blind? Maybe there's a project, but not headed to the solution. But yeah, the whole point is you're just kind of like sketching out a thing that says, I promise that if this thing is decorated with this I class name, that it will have these properties that are accessible like this and these methods. But I'm not going to implement those things. I'm just going to tell you that anything that does implement this interface will have these methods and properties.
So
I
it's sort
saw
of
you.
like
I
I
saw
didn't mean to
you.
turn that on. I don't
I
mind
don't
turning on,
care.
but
I
I didn't
saw
mean to
you.
turn on.
Your hair got long.
Yeah, I did it. I haven't had a haircut in a while. I've moved, in fact. But
Take
I
it
understand
soft.
that like conceptually, like what it does. Like I get that like you have the eye interface, and I guess that's not instantiating things that you might otherwise instantiate if you're like looking at them directly. But when would you want to use something? I guess my projects aren't big enough to where
Always.
like there's a performance. Is it
Yeah,
a
there would
performance
be no
thing? Is that
performance hit because you're not compiling the interfaces themselves. The interfaces are just there so that anything that is going to use whatever thing you're providing in place of the interface will just be able to say, I don't care about the implementation details. I just want to be able to use this thing, and it's going to have this property. So like get get tacos. I don't know. I guess yeah. I'll let you re-ask again because Tyron wants clarity on your question.
it's more of a general. I'm not sure what I'm asking because I don't really understand perceptually how I would use it. Like I get it conceptually, like of what it is. Like you have a bunch of stuff that's, I guess, like say for instance you had an interface, right, and it called a bunch of stuff.
It doesn't call anything. It defines what it can do. What anything that implements it can do. Did you get DC'd?
No, I did not. I'm thinking. My brain doesn't work that fast. So I was
Yeah.
actually just watching your the way you're putting it in there. I'm thinking, okay, so how would how would that like, work out, or how would that be?
Yeah. So the whole thing, the whole reason that I had an interfaces project and then deleted it was because I would use interfaces for things like services or these objects that would be performing some kind of operation. But I never really, yeah, absolutely, Tyron. I never really thought of using interfaces for all of my objects so that during testing I would be able to create my own implementation of the object itself. And so like my services return a concrete object, in this case response model, but response model is only defined in this shared library. And yeah, I'm expecting that response model to be an interface. So these all would need to be iResponse model for me, which just breaks everything for me. Anyway, hi Tyron.
I apologize if my voice is a little rough. I've been fighting off a cold for feels like 2 weeks.
No worries.
Okay.
It just makes you sound more masculine.
So the reason I tend to use interfaces is it allows me to implement things easily internally that I don't want to expose publicly, as well as it allows me to write very, very targeted unit tests because I can mock out any layer of my code by dropping in a mock or pretend version of the interface. So mocks work really good with interfaces because you basically can easily define this is anybody who implements an interface will satisfy the contract that I need to be able to call into any function that I exposed. An example is iList in C#. iList has an interface. It's an interface, and on iList, it has functions like add, and anything that implements iList can be used in place of an iList anywhere in code. So generally speaking, I use iList throughout my code rather than list, the concrete class, because I might want to drop in something like a hash set, which is also an iList because it is enumerable. You can even get more generic and do IEnumerable
Yeah.
because then a string array, technically, or an array implements IEnumerable and can be used in place of that. And so it allows you to be more generic about the requirements of the thing being handed in. If you say I only support a list, then it means that we must to list everything before you call it. If you implement IEnumerable or use IEnumerable, you can call it with pretty much anything that is enumerable, like an array. So in the same regards here, I prefer to keep my concrete classes internal to the library and expose the interfaces of those
Interfaces.
things because it allows me to do whatever I want on the concrete class, but only expose the few pieces of things that must be there to be able to be mocked out. So internally, I can actually have public methods on there, but they're only available internal to the class because the interface doesn't implement or expose those public methods. Now, C# people know. Technically speaking, I can use reflection. I can find those methods. I can call those methods. All they are doing is API designed to encourage someone to do the right thing. But technically speaking, you can still call them. It's not security per se, but it just makes the API much cleaner, much easier to use. And again, when I'm writing unit tests, I can mock out any interface I want really easily and test the piece of code that I'm trying to test without having to worry about all these concrete classes I have all over the place that have a bunch of logic in them that I'm not trying to test at this time. Does that help?
Yeah, it's just a lot.
It is a lot. It is a lot. And generally speaking, if I were writing code just to quickly knock out some code, I'm not going to wrap a bunch of stuff in interfaces either. But if I'm writing code that I want to share with other people and make it testable and make it maintainable and all these other things, I basically wrap almost everything in interface. I don't do models because I tend not to put code in models. It's just properties. So they're just accessors.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem to that's
Yeah.
a little bit much for me. But I definitely do mock all my services, all my DB context, all of my stuff I can as much as I can. I interface stuff.
Yeah, and the reason that I started looking at doing models as well was because of the application that I was working on for the client, where they have everything as an interface only, because I actually don't know why. Um, but because I saw that, I was like, you know what? When I make my services, then I could also have whatever they return be an interface as well. Otherwise, I don't know how to handle this type of thing. So I don't know if you can see what I'm looking at, but oh man, yeah, this would even be a hard situation as well because sometimes I'll have a key, sometimes I won't. Um, I'll have a service that will return a response model, but that response model is not an interface, so it doesn't go in my separate library that gets exposed to everything. But it could, maybe. I don't know. I
Well,
honestly don't know.
again, I think what the point I'm trying to make is if it has methods, it probably needs an interface. If it's just properties, and all those
Yeah, like
properties
a Poco.
are yeah, exactly, and all those properties are just getters and setters, and that's all there is to it. There's really no logic there. It's literally just a store of data. So I don't understand the value of having an interface around that.
Okay, so
Oh,
like
that
in
makes
like a
sense.
model, so like for instance, I have a model, and inside there I just have a property called event services, which is a list of event service. That wouldn't be an I list, that would just be a list.
Um, Uh, so I know I use the iList as an example. I generally speaking, I try to take into my methods the most generic thing I need, and I try to expose the most useful thing for the scenario I expect them to use. So I know that sounds awfully vague, but um, I read only list is a really common one I put on my properties or things I return because I don't expect anybody to dot add them. For example, when I'm taking in, I generally take IEnumerables because I want you to be able to pass in a hash set or an array or an iList or a list or heck even a dictionary if it's a key value pair. Like it doesn't really matter as long as you have something that's enumerable. So I have some very specific rules because I've been designing APIs for a very long time, and I try to think about the use case scenario that the user. I want to make it really hard to do the wrong thing and really easy to do the right thing. If that makes sense. And so that's why I try to only expose interfaces because when someone does IntelliSense and they hit the dot and they see 20,000 methods on there, that's confusing. But when they see 3, it's much less confusing. So if I'm giving out interfaces only have 3 methods, even though my concrete class may have 20, it's much more clear that they're only supposed to use those 3 methods to do stuff with. And in the same regard, if I'm taking an IEnumerable, it's much more clear to you. Like you don't feel like you have to list everything. You can just hand in whatever it is you have, and it should just work. But if I made it a list, now you're going to have to coalesce all of your objects to pass in lists to my thing. So the more generic I can make my inputs, the better, and the correct specification of the outputs is also important because again, if I hand you an I list out or even a list out, you can add to that, and that doesn't make any sense a lot of times when I'm handing you out a non-mutable object, an immutable object, right? I don't want you mutating my object that I handed you, so I make it an I read-only list in that case, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
I know there's no right answer. As with anything, like it's the it really depends on the use case. If it's just you
Absolutely.
writing code, it really doesn't matter. The more people that have to use it, the more you are writing an application programming interface or API, the more thought you put into it to make sure that again, it's hard to do the wrong thing and easy to do the right thing.
Right. And easily extensible too.
Yep.
So, like, let's say we want to change the entire approach that we made for this specific service, completely different method bodies. We don't have to completely destroy the original implementation. We make a new implementation that also implements that same interface and then swap it out once we're done with that. In our dependency injection, for example.
Yeah, I definitely got to get. I mean, this is one of the things on my list that I've got to get hands on with it. This is along with unit testing. Two things I really haven't got in and got stuck in with is unit testing and the interfaces.
Now I remember why I removed this is because I'm doing this thing with generics when really I should just be making one, even though it's a lot of repeated code. Oh man, making one service per. Oh, I really don't like that. Per lookup item type. Or not lookup item type. This one's fine. It was the transaction. Because this would be easy. Everything is just a lookup item view model that I'm maintaining here. Yeah. So I don't know. Implements iCoffee. Yes, please. Yeah, I would have to really consider in more than just these couple of seconds that I was trying to how to create essentially an interface library and what things to actually have interfaces on so that I can test them easier and do this the proper way. And then everyone went quiet.
I'm still playing catch up. I'm trying to do the database stuff still.
Oh, yeah. So I will just keep this out of my project for Neil. Thindle's here.
No, yeah, Dukasoft
With 5 minutes to spare.
and Captain Commerce is implemented an iLunch.
But yeah, just like Tyron said, just think of interfaces as what word did you use? Contract.
Yeah, I think contract is kind of the way I think of them. It is effectively a way to say I don't care what you are as long as you tell me that you're of this type of interface. And and because C# doesn't support multiple inheritance, interface is one way in which you can have an object be multiple different things. It can satisfy many contracts. It can be lots of interfaces. While it can only have one parent class, it can implement many interfaces. So it can be an iList, it can be an IEnumerable, it can be an iHash set, it can be like lots of different things. Read only list, and satisfy all of those contracts and still have a concrete class underneath the hood that has a bunch of special logic that is unique to itself. And so, and if you look at the interface or look at the class interface list of iList, or excuse me, of list in the .NET framework, it's
Yep.
got a lot of interfaces. It has a lot of interfaces because it satisfies lots of different things that you can use all over the place.
And now with these I numbers, is that what they're called? That list gets massive, or can be massive. The .NET 7 I numeric, I think is what it's called. Yeah, you can keep going down the chain of here's all of the things that an I list is comprised of. It will have an add method, a clear method, a contains method, a copy method, a move method, because it's based off of I collection, which is based off of IEnumerable, which has a get enumerator method. So yeah, I love it. But you can also use reflection with interfaces. Yeah. So Tyron did make a short mention of that regarding, like, even if you are trying to hide all of your classes, there's still ways to get to the code to exposing their contents using reflection, but most people won't go through the trouble of that. And if you have code that is
Again,
being exposed,
I'm not trying to stop I'm not trying to stop a hacker. This isn't a security.
Yeah.
This isn't a security lesson, right? .NET is not the most secure language, and honestly, if you know how to disassemble and stuff, neither is C or C++
Yeah,
or any other language. I mean, at the end of the day, it's instructions that goes to a computer,
Right.
and people who have the right
Exactly.
tools and the right know-how, they're going to be able to
That's what I was
your code and
getting
make
at.
it do that thing. But it does make it hard to do the wrong thing and easy to do the right thing, and that's
Yeah.
all what it's all about. If I know we all of us have sat here and hit the dot on IntelliSense and see an
And just
overwhelming
scroll
multiple
through it.
pages of thing and scroll through it going which of these is most like the thing I want to do. And the more you can make that easier for a user, the better it is. And that's just kind of I've been doing, like I said, I've been designing APIs for a long time, and that has been one of the most useful tools to me. After you've written something up, go write an app that uses your new interface and see how hard it is, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, why did I use that? That's terrible.
Yeah. It is really nice. Well, the thing that I like about Visual Studio the most is you kind of have the API built in with IntelliSense. The API document. Gosh, such an overloaded term. But you know what I mean by API in this context. The thing that you would go to see what are all of the methods that I can use with this class and what are their descriptions and how do I use it. So you kind of get a snapshot of that with IntelliSense, provided it's well documented. Yeah. This is definitely a topic that I'd be interested in covering in more depth and just demystifying interfaces for people who are not familiar with it or comfortable with when to use interfaces, what exactly they are, etc. And you seem like a really good person to talk about that, Tyron. So thanks for everything that you said today.
Yeah, Tyron, you should stream.
I have streamed. My problem is that man, I love to teach.
No.
I no, I really do love to teach. I really do. But I have a tendency to talk too much, and I also talk really fast, and I also talk at a level that sometimes is challenging for people to follow. I guess I'm not trying to say I'm smart. I'm trying to say that I understand that I struggle with with communication has always been a challenge of mine, and so many of most of my struggles in my career have been learning to communicate better, learning to explain to people difficult concepts. I didn't go to college, so I struggled to find common terminologies that might be part of a CS course, understanding structures, things like that. So a lot of my career has been just trying to learn how to communicate with other people, and so I'm definitely better than I was, and I'm hoping to be better next year than I am today, and continue to improve. But putting me on a stream, sure, I could talk about a specific topic. I could definitely cover that stuff, and I have done a few. I did a tutorial on Unity it's on my YouTube page or whatever, but like on a regular basis, I just don't have the time to sit down and put together content and share that with people. But I'd love to teach. I do enjoy teaching. And if I have um, a thing to talk about, and I could easily fill an hour discussing something simple like interfaces.
And that would be very nice if you had that time in the future for another community stream where we focus specifically on that. That'd be cool. But if you don't, then it's obviously understandable because we all have lives, jobs, and you're volunteering to be here, and I don't want to put any expectation or pressure on you just hanging out with us. But thank you for coming on today, though. I do want to express appreciation for when you do.
And I will chime in with, I remember one line when he first started streaming, and he is so much smoother now, and he is like he's like a natural, like he could do his own TV show now. He's up there with really a smooth operator.
I don't think so.
I think so. I think so.
There's still a lot of awkwardness.
Well, at least to say, Tara and I sympathize with that, and I think I place myself in the same category as someone who does indeed enjoy sharing and teaching. But I also do find myself struggling when it comes to the right language and the right sort of when to say, how to say, what to say is something that I definitely have learned over time. And yeah, so I sympathize. I think there's something, and that's partly the why I'm streaming, because I want to also develop that skill. I want to become a smooth operator like 119. So,
well, I appreciate the compliment. It doesn't feel like I am, but if you say I am, then that is your experience of this, which means it's true for you, and maybe other people too.
Hey, Irish John Games is a snuck in,
and he gave us another sub. I think it said 9 months in a row. That's insane. I really do appreciate that. I am going to give him a shout out, but I do also need to end the stream because I want to get back to working on Omniverse stuff.
Fair enough.
Still at work. Still at work.
Yeah.
All right, but for you two, thanks again so much for coming on and talking and using your beautiful voices, as hoarse as you may feel.
Thank you.
Let's do this again. Any last words from either of you?
No, I'm sure.
No.
Well,
we were both waiting. Any last words? Wait for 4 seconds and then start talking, both of us. No. Thank you again for making programming approachable to so many people. I know you take the time to stop and explain to people, and I think a lot of times when you go to other streamers with their coding, they don't care about that. They're there to code and they're not there to teach. So I appreciate that about you, and that's why I keep coming back. So keep that up, and I will let you guys go.
Well,
I
thanks
say
for the
I
kind
feel the
words.
same way that the Irish John Games is like, no, that's how I feel when you're ending stream.
It's all my fault.
But
It's
no,
all
you
my
do. It's
fault.
really, really appreciate it. I cannot say how much I appreciate, or can't say enough about how much I appreciate you and how approachable you've made it, and how much fun my career is now compared to where I was when I first bumped into you. And Irish John, actually, I might hop on. I have a guy who really would like to publish his Unity game to Steam, and so I know that's something that you are pretty good at because your game looks really good on Steam. And so I might pop into your chat and ask you a question at some point. But anyway,
Yeah, and definitely
yes,
send a
no,
guy over to Irish John's Discord as well. So
yeah,
if you have a link
exactly.
for that, Irish John, feel free to put that in chat. But go ahead.
Yes, so thank you. No, that was. I mean, I can't understate it. I really, 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 really enjoy my career much more now than I used to. And, well, that's
That's
so.
really cool.
I had a good job before, but I really enjoy the direction it's gone, and so and then you're a big part of that. So I appreciate that.
I'm honored to be a part of that. Ooh, that's fine. But yeah, so I am going to do this shout out thing and end my stream shortly thereafter, but I want to see a clip from Irish John. Buyer beware. Who knows what kind of clip we're going to get today? Could be the most raunchiest, it could be the nicest. But this is what you're signing up for if you feel like watching Irish John games. I love hanging out in his channel, chilling with him. He usually starts about 20 minutes from now. Here we go. What are we getting?
Thank you.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
very much. Oh,
What happened?
50. No.
He's doing hat. It's been a while since you've done hat stream. So if you've never experienced an Irish John Games hat stream, definitely check him out today. It'll be tonight for him. It's this afternoon for me. Uh, there are some shenanigans that get gotten, and yeah, it's just a fun time. He's really, really fun, really crazy, and also really nice. He's so kind to everyone that comes in. Uh, berating anyone in a fun way because he knows them and he knows his community and how just awesome everyone is. I met the majority of you through him. So you know what I'm talking about. But for those of you on the YouTubes that might be watching this in the future, definitely check out Irish John Games. You can see his name right up there in chat. Yeah. Yeah. And there are some Tryen videos. So it looks like Tryen also posts to YouTube. But yeah, so thank you guys for being here. I am not going to be streaming on Monday, but I do plan on streaming on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of next week. So for those of you that celebrate big head mode. For those of you that celebrate Christmas, I hope you have a wonderful celebration and a very Merry Christmas. For those of you that are just getting a holiday break, I hope it's relaxing and enjoyable. If you enjoy spending time with family and are able to do so, I hope you get to do that to the fullest. And yeah, we'll talk again next week. We'll be doing some daily streaming after I just renamed the stream to One Lion of Code. Yes. All right. That's it for me for now. You wanted to know who we're raiding? We can raid Finite. How about that? I've been lurking on his stream, so we may as well head over there. If you feel like joining me over on Finite Stream, hang out until the raid timer counts down or I push the raid button. I don't have any raid. I'm a lame streamer that way. I don't have any raid messages or anything, but just feel free to send him some love when we get there. Although, who knows if he's about to wrap up. He's been streaming for 4 hours. Oh, I used to stream all day. It's the finite countdown, says Dukasoft. All right, so yeah, again, that's it for me. I'll be back on Tuesday. I will post this video onto the YouTube sometime 24 hours after I end the stream. And there's another thing. Feel free to join our Discord anytime, especially if you have questions. Especially if you want to help people that have questions or you just want to talk tech. Excuse me? I said talk tech. Okay. That's it for me because timer is counting down still. So enjoy. Until the next time. Here's my waving face. Bye.